How are you guys tonight? Someone sent me an email about this film Vegan 2020, and I didn't actually know about it until today. I mean, there was Vegan 2019, which we did a very in-depth critique on, and that person actually asked me, hey, you're going to watch this live at 1 p.m. today when it comes out. But I figured 1 p.m. wasn't a great time for, everyone to be on their computers. Some people are working, or well, those that haven't been lost their job due to the new world nonsense. So we're going to take a look at this film, Vegan 2020. We'll try to watch it through. I think we'll just watch it on real time, and we'll try to make some points. We'll try to make some points throughout the documentary, just so, when I go to make a video later on it, that's going to be like a more in-depth critique and just like shorter on my main channel. We have an idea of the main things we want to talk about, but I don't know. We'll see what you guys like. Like, I obviously don't want to like interrupt it like too many times and talk for on and on and on. We want to get through some of the film because it is 50 minutes long. Frank, I sent the email. Hey, Kevin, I'm glad you're joining me tonight. How did it go with Victoria's car transmission? That was a joke. Russian girl's transmission. I'm sure some of the people in my chat get the joke. So we'll get started on this, I guess. The last one was just a bunch of propaganda, obviously, about morals, the environment, health. We're assuming this one is going to be similar, except they're going to make a focus on, what, COVID, and how maybe eating meat is bad because it destroys the planet, and now it destroys, also destroys, like, I guess you could say, everything. Our ability to go outside, our ability to do this, our ability to do that. So I think they're going to take it a step further than last time. They're going to be more extreme if they haven't been extreme enough already. But we'll see. 100% propaganda. I only watched 8 minutes. Oh, you only made it 8 minutes. Yeah, honestly, I'm a little nervous because it's 50 minutes long, and we'll see. We'll see how far we get. Just let me know how the volume is for you guys. Definitely say hello over to Klaus, the soy boy on Plant-Based News. Oh, here he is.
2019, Dr. Li Wenliang, who worked at Wuhan Central Hospital in China,
oh no, off the bat,
messaged his fellow physicians, alerting them to the appearance of a concerning cluster of pneumonia cases. In response, he was threatened and told to stay quiet.
I could just sit there serious in a shirt like, too many vegan boys have received cucumbers up their butts. Like, just it's a real pandemic, if you know what I mean.
39 days later, after becoming infected with the very virus he'd been warning about, he was dead at age 33. By that time, the disease had already spread to dozens of countries. His initial message read, 7 cases of SARS confirmed at Hunan meat market.
The latest on that, a new case confirmed right here in the U.S.
Dude, the vegans can't convince people to eat this shit. They got to take out the big guns. You're going to die, dude.
Fifth case of the deadly new strain of coronavirus has been confirmed.
Coronavirus, did it evolve in nature, or was it man-made in a Chinese lab?
I find it very hard to accept that one man in China eating a bat has actually caused this world scale of chaos and horror.
Yeah, we know that the root of this is from animals.
It comes from animals, like all the other things, like MERS and SARS.
COVID-19 has underscored the urgency with which we need to end factory farming.
And going vegan now has 4 strong pillars. We don't just have ethics, the environment and health. We now, of course, have infectious zoonotic disease.
Vegan mayonnaise, vegan meats, vegan cheeses, vegan milks. It's more than a tipping point. We've hit that. Now we're snowballing toward a cultural realization.
Imagine a social media platform where every post helps people around the world live more sustainably, influence businesses, and give back to impactful causes without $1 from your pocket. We're a billion. Our mission, to inspire 1 billion people to go vegan. Join us.
Hey, at least when I line all these, I don't know if I could say that on YouTube. At least you won't need too big of a bowl to penetrate the thin skulls of these vegans. Or, well, no, it would be thick skulls, right? Never mind. I don't know where I was going with that.
Hi, I'm Klaus, For years, I've been making annual documentaries tracing the rise of the plant-based and vegan movement. But as we face the devastation that 2020 caused, the rise in consciousness this year has been unrivaled. The story starts in Australia in January.
Please stand by. What's the location of your emergency? They're on the driveway, but there's fires broken out up closer to the house.
Oh, okay, sure. Is it quite a long driveway, is it?
Yes, very much so. And there's a car nearby.
Yeah.
And yes, so it's really close to the... You need to get your keys. Get the car. Get the car.
Are you able to safely get out of the way?
I'm not sure.
This is because you ate your steak.
There are downright apocalyptic images coming out of Australia.
The angry cows are lighting fires in the forest because you're killing their friends.
Right
2,000 homes have been destroyed.
It's a staggering toll on the nation's wildlife.
Scorching more than 14 million acres of land.
The WWF calls it one of the worst wildlife disasters in modern history.
This isn't even our fire season. This is not our fire season.
We lost whole animal cultures. It's pretty confronting.
What we see in Australia now is something that's likely to be playing out all over the world.
There's a theory that they're going to sacrifice Australia to climate change. There was a really good video, I believe, on BitChute that showed that the Australian government was planning dams and water blockages around key areas to intentionally cause desertification and droughts. I mean, someone has probably seen this. Someone can probably bring this up, but there is... I remember reading about this 6 months, maybe over a year ago. There is tangible proof that it's possible they're going to sacrifice Australia to climate change to set an example for the rest of the world.
For many, many years to come.
It's never been more critical for us to understand what is driving this crisis.
The Australian fires put the spotlight on the leading cause of climate change.
How about the link between arsonists and climate change?
Animal agriculture, which accounts for 14.5% of greenhouse gas emissions, more than all forms of transportation combined.
Is the question we really need to be asking, should we just stop eating meat? Is that actually the answer?
We're not talking about that today, boys, but if you think that's a woman, you need to fucking go to an optometrist.
If we look at the wildfires
and if you think that's a man, you also need to go to an optometrist.
January in Australia is quite abstract for people to understand how that's related to eating meat, dairy and eggs. But meat, dairy and eggs are the leading cause of species extinction, habitat destruction, and are also one of the leading causes of greenhouse gas emissions, which of course...
Okay. I think we just debunked the climate stuff with the 99.4% thing. People say like greenhouse gases in general only account for 0.04% of climate. And 99.4% is water vapor. I mean, no. She shredded jawline. I think her jawline's better than Corn Faker's. Jesus.
Of course, heats up our planet and increases the likelihood and risk of wildfires.
The Australian fires were so unprecedented in their scale, it begged the question, what can we do to minimise our impact on the planet? If food was part of the problem, it surely had to be part of the solution. That was the premise of Veganuary, a campaign in January that not only saw hundreds of thousands of people try vegan diet, but also encouraged giants like KFC, Pret a Manger, Greggs, and others to bring new products to market.
I came across this amazing page called We Are Veganuary, and I was like going through it, and literally so many restaurants.
Someone should have made a parody Instagram called like Vaginuary or something, and just posted pictures of soy bitch boys on it. They probably would have got banned in like a week.
Fast food chains have released like new vegan options for Veganuary. So I was like, let me go try them.
Listen, I did a 30-day vegan challenge that not only did it change my health, but it changed my wealth.
Veganism was breaking growth and sales records all over the world. Even in 2019, 23% of all UK food launches were labelled vegan. And in 2020...
Yo, they'll never make the money back that they had to spend on the trillions of dollars of bullshit propaganda.
The plant-based trend continued to gain massive popularity as politicians were left disgruntled.
Yo, this is like stupid. Like, why do you have to prop yourself up so much? Like, if something was doing so well, you wouldn't have to fucking you wouldn't have to fucking brag about it. Like, you don't have to brag about how big your dick is. You just like flop. All right, we're not talking about that.
The most Australian of all activities is to be at the football and be eating meat pie and a beer or a Coke. Now, to have a vegan pie, I think we've got a problem here.
The point is, animal products are beginning to lose popularity, with the meat industry all over the world facing issues. Even in China, swine flu resulted in the cull of 40% of the pigs in the country, leading to a shortage of pork. And as this happened, little did we...
Swine flu, bird flu, avian flu, mad cow disease, Klaus, fairy boy flu. What's next?
We realize that much worse was to come.
Oh, here we go. Oh, not this.
I think that we've become very disconnected from the natural world.
This fucking speech, even in the context of the average mainstream media, was an embarrassment.
And many of us, what we're guilty of is an egocentric worldview, the belief that we're the center of the universe. We go into the natural world and we plunder it for its resources. We feel entitled to artificially inseminate a cow, and when she gives birth, we steal her baby, even though her cries of anguish are unmistakable. And then we take her milk that's intended for a calf.
I don't understand. Why can't you just like, why don't they actually talk like, you have to just talk about like, oh, we artificially inseminate her baby and then take her, like, artificially inseminate her calf, the cow, and then take her baby. They could just say shit like, oh, we rip their tails off, we cut their horns off, we torture them in feedlots. Like, they could but they don't want people to know about the conditions. Veganism is not about, if veganism was about going against feedlot and poor animals, you know what's really crazy? The craziest thing in general is that veganism has never really gone out against factory farmed conventional animals specifically. It's only gone out against just consuming meat. And the reason is because they're all in bed together. You know, I've said this so many times, the reason the vegans and the carnivores are both against me is because they are part of the same, food system. They control the food supply. They want you eating a vegan diet or conventional feedlot meat. They don't want you actually going to your Amish buddy and, well, that's a different story too.
And we put it in our coffee and our cereal. And I think we fear the idea of personal change because we think that we have to sacrifice something to give something up. But human beings at our best are so inventive and creative and ingenious. And I think that when we use love and compassion as our guiding principles, we can create, develop, and implement systems of change that are beneficial to all sentient beings and to the environment.
I hated his Joker movie. It wasn't like horrible, but it wasn't good. Oh, don't you hate this guy's fucking face? Man.
The day after Joaquin Phoenix delivered his prophet-like speech, the World Health Organization announced that the disease caused by the novel coronavirus, first identified in China, will be named COVID-19.
Unwelcome but expected, the coronavirus has hit the UK.
Outbreak aboard a cruise ship in Japan is getting worse, with more than 130 cases.
The Philippines has reported the first death from the new coronavirus outside of China.
At least 6 people have died in an outbreak of the new coronavirus, which has now reached the United States.
I must level with the British public. Many more families are going to lose loved ones before their time.
By the end of February, COVID-19 had cast its tentacles across the globe, with nearly 90,000 cases confirmed.
We are experiencing...
So, I mean, is there like... It's crazy how everything's just taken for granted. Like, okay, have you proved it even exists? Like, have they even proved it exists? Have they proved it's transmissible? The test is clearly ineffective with false positives. And I don't know how much I want to touch on the COVID stuff in the vegan critique video. All I should probably say is that just like the world governments are using COVID for control and power, vegans are using it as well. Vegans are using it to I don't know, push their agenda as well.
An unprecedented event, a global pandemic that in New Zealand.
You guys like this one? You ever see a woman with a skull like that?
We have moved to fight by going hard and going early.
As numbers of cases and deaths mounted, the World Health Organization declared that COVID-19 could be characterized as a pandemic, with Europe at the epicenter.
We have therefore made the assessment that COVID-19 can be characterized.
They sent me 5 little boys, and then I told them, okay, I will lie about COVID.
As a pandemic.
Societies around the world went into lockdown on an unprecedented scale, and with ensuing panic and economic turmoil, the blame game began.
I shouldn't say half of it. Like, I shouldn't say half of this shit on my main channel, right?
Or the Chinese coronavirus.
Xenophobia is also on the rise.
A foreign virus. Discrimination of people based on race.
It's going to come across to a lot of Americans as smacking of xenophobia.
They're looking for someone to blame.
Many refuse to believe that such a highly infectious virus could have emerged from a wet market in China.
I find it very hard to accept that one man in China eating a bat has actually caused this sort of world scale of chaos and horror. I find it very hard to believe, to be honest.
And while the precise source of the novel...
Can anyone give me a straight answer on why we shouldn't all join the Freemasons? Okay, that's like saying, why shouldn't we all join the military? Okay, you weren't, you know, obviously someone who's born in... First of all, you're not born into the bloodlines or the families that think... These people that are born, that are high-level Masons that are born into families, you think they don't think they're better than you and they're not higher level than you? Who do you think determines who gets to be super duper duper? Who do you think who gets to determine who's like 12-year-old kid is super duper duper famous, and then those people that have to wait till their 40s like George Clooney to become super famous? Like, there's a clear difference on who's born into it and who's not born into it and the roles they play. But listen, you want to... The problem is, the reason is, okay, you could argue that the majority of intelligent people join them because they're in it for their own selfish human benefit. But like if you actually care about people and understand that they're violating natural law, then you wouldn't want to join them. They're not in favor of humanity. They're in favor of themselves and a twisted agenda.
Coronavirus remains unclear.
I mean, look, if you want an easy way out, go ahead. But it's not necessarily an easy way out, and it's not the right way out, that's for sure.
There was growing evidence that it had animal origins, being similar to coronaviruses typically found in bats.
COVID-19 was believed to have started in bats, and we know that because the genetic sequence of the virus that infects people has been analysed. It's thought that it jumped from bats to what's called an intermediary species.
I don't think I'm going to put any of this coronavirus shit in the critique video, because that's obviously something that we've talked about a lot.
Pangolin, and then from pangolins to people. Now, both bats and pangolins were traded across what's called wet markets in China, and also countries way beyond China too. And that's where basically animals are trussed up in cages, piled one on top of another, in very close contact to each other, but also, of course, in very close contact with human beings. And so...
I respect your answer, Frank. Well, that wasn't my actual answer. My actual answer was that the Masons are a bunch of Satan-worshipping, child-abusing freakazoids that play with each other and saunas. So, I mean, we could go more in depth on my answer, but you should probably watch my other videos on it.
This is where zoonotic diseases, as they're called, normally start, is when you've got people in contact with wildlife.
I guess I should give some context since I brought that up, which I shouldn't have done on this video. The world is run by secret societies, secret organizations, and there's millions. If you wonder why, oh well, if hospitals were empty, how did everyone keep quiet? You know, almost every doctor is in this secret society, Freemasonry. There's millions and millions of people throughout the world that are in these secret societies, and they're basically keeping secrets from the general public to use to their own benefit. Secrets about how the world works, secrets about the true history of the world, secrets about what's really going on, and this can apply to them simply insider trading on stocks, giving each other better jobs, all that type of crap. They're all in on it.
That they would never normally be in contact with.
Of the 51,000 media articles about COVID.
That sounds like a priest. Well, to be fair, one of the higher ranking organizations in the secret society order is the Vatican, which is a bunch of priests playing with boys.
19 published in the first month of lockdown, only 2.1% mentioned the word animal. This was surprising because the scientific community had been predicting a pandemic like COVID-19 for years due to the intensification of animal farming. Whether it was avian flu coming from factory farms, repeated bouts of swine flu from pig farms, MERS being the result of the way humans treated camels, and SARS stemming from civet cats, scientists have been warning us for years that our treatment of animals is leading to an ever-growing number of outbreaks.
So they're saying that we need to treat animals better. Same thing with growing plants better, outside of monocrops. And the other thing to consider is everything being told is not verifiable. You can verify that an animal is being raised in a poor condition, but what you can't verify is that this type of illness or problem exists. All you're doing is taking the word of the source it came from. Taking word at face value.
In this age of emerging plagues, we now have billions of feathered and curly...
The vegans are just fucked when this is their go-to guy. Yeah, just call up Dr. Greger. He'll sort things out.
...tailed test tubes for viruses to incubate and mutate within billions more spins at pandemic roulette. Along with human culpability, though, comes hope. If changes in human behavior can cause new plagues, well then, changes in human behavior may prevent them in the future.
The coronavirus, COVID-19, has been a major shock to the growth prospects of the global economy and the euro area economy.
The pressures on the economy started being felt in every sector, including the meat and dairy industry. As restaurants in the hospitality sector shut down, demand dropped, and slaughterhouses were forced to close.
This morning, a growing number of major meat processing plants are closed.
The world's biggest pork producer, Smithfield Foods, shut down its processing plant.
Dairy farmers have been led to dump their milk.
They're literally emptying it out right into the drain here, 25,000 gallons a day.
The pandemic has exposed the dark underbelly of the meat and dairy industry, particularly slaughterhouses, and what's happening inside slaughterhouses. So you had...
Okay, so why don't you talk about all the vegetables and produce that they had to plow over? We also talked about how those meat plants were targeted by cell towers.
Had newspapers like the New York Times forced to do stories about the kill floor and show imagery of the meat processing because the slaughterhouses are hotspots of COVID-19, and tens of thousands of slaughterhouse workers have gotten infected. More than 200 have died.
What about vegetable processing plants? Where are the videos of vegetable processing plants?
COVID-19 outbreak shone a whole new kind of spotlight on the meat industry. Articles were published from major outlets about pigs having to be drowned and suffocated, and chickens being euthanized. For the first time ever, the public realized how fragile the animal industry was, and the scale of suffering was magnified and visible to all.
We put down sick pigs because you feel sorry for them. But have a healthy pig to take a rifle and shoot it. It's unreal.
What do you mean? That's because that has nothing to do with how they're raising or treating the animals or the virus. That has to do with the government telling them that has to do with the government food supply chain. Hey, listen, I know plenty of girls who want to sit in cages like that all day, so I don't know if the animals mind so much.
Demand for meat and dairy products declined for the first time in 9 years due to the coronavirus pandemic. 40% of Germans were cutting down on meat, and in the UK, over 50% of people were considering plant-based options according to a new poll. The dietary changes were so widespread that farming outlets began to spread propaganda as they worried about the growth of veganism and the ever-apparent surge in plant-based meat sales.
I think these stories make you become not necessarily a vegetarian, but to think twice about beef. And then you think twice about beef and then you try beyond.
A lot of holes in this story.
You kind of realize it's very, very similar. They're both protein sources. The new Beyond sausages are
It's very, very similar.
much better in terms of the kind of ingredients that we used to get. The price differential could be big. At last, Ethan Brown may have that price differential where he's cheaper coming under the beef complex.
I think the way that COVID has changed people's diet inspired more people to try plant-based products.
He's kind of cute with long hair, isn't he?
And inspired people to really look into animal farming and consider how much they want to be involved and how much.
Yeah, I guarantee you these fucking people are watching me like, damn it, Frank, I'm a woman. 100%. That's what's happening.
Meat they want to eat. There was some interesting polling done during the year which showed that both in the UK and the US people were trying plant-based meats. Some of them simply couldn't find their normal products, and polling showed that a huge number of them actually wanted to stick with it once they had tried it.
We've seen the benefits of what's happened in the last month or two with the birds and the air and the cars, being gone. Like, we see what's happening, how much just that little difference of everything being quiet has made the earth, Mama Earth is saying thank you, right? We feel that.
The global response to the pandemic showed that people were able to change their behavior. For example, there was a 6% drop in greenhouse gas emissions.
I never seen Amish wear a mask or talk about vaccines. Now, when we met some Amish farmers last week, we were in a room with 10 of them and none of them had a mask on.
According to the UN, a decline...
Oh, that doesn't sound right. Hold on, that doesn't sound right. I was not in a room with 10 Amish men with masks on. No, that's not... We were having a meeting discussing raw dairy and egg products.
Of 90,000 barrels of oil per day, according to the International Energy Agency, and a dramatic decrease in nitrogen dioxide, according to NASA. As Robert Kunzig put it, this does show us what's possible. I just hope it motivates us to start adopting some of the more sustainable solutions.
Imagine if we can shut down for this. What if...
You know what's weird? Isn't it weird that NASA hasn't done anything? They just talk. Is NASA even real? Do they just talk about stuff? Where's the video footage of what they're doing?
We shut down just for a second and think about how to restructure everything. If everyone just uses plants as their medicine, as their food, their bodies will heal, the earth will heal, and we will no longer have these pandemics to worry about. We will no longer have a future to worry about.
There were some polls that were looking at people's consumption of...
Oh yeah, clearly it's because everyone ate some steak. Clearly.
Plant-based products. They said that in the UK, 20% of UK citizens were reducing their meat consumption, 15% were reducing their dairy and or egg consumption. In the US, you saw increasing sales of plant-based foods. And so I think what we've seen throughout 2020 is that people do take an acknowledgement of what's happening and will incrementally put changes into their life accordingly as well.
I think awareness has grown around the plant-based lifestyle exponentially, and we're going to see huge and rapid growth because the science and the data is there.
Plant-based diet is better for the environment.
Tom, you can go fuck yourself. It's kind of like the Amish are kind of like the Jews, where they opposing the government in a way. They kind of use their Amishness just like the Jews use their Jewness to oppose the government.
Environment is better for human health.
From an ethical perspective, it's profound. It's the only thing that seems to transcend all of these huge global issues that we face.
I want to measure my life by its impact on other species. And if I can make the ethical decision to not kill another creature to live, then I'll make that decision every single time.
As more and more people spoke out about plant-based diets, this is fueled by increased awareness around the animal agriculture industry. with factory farming being pinpointed as the single most risky behaviour for pandemics.
It's not a coincidence that we talk about avian influenza and swine influenza. Those are the two species that are farmed intensively the most around the world. Thousands and thousands of animals packed in together, and that's a very good environment for a new virus to emerge from a mutation.
You know, if you look right here at home, we are doing the same kind of practices that could cause global health disasters.
Most of the viruses that are on the CDC's watch list of viruses of special concern, most of them evolved on poultry farms.
Are these practices and are these rituals and these habits that we have as a species, are they really worth it? You know, is it really worth risking our entire future and our children?
Why did they edit this on here? Like, this is clearly not part of the screen capture. Like, they edited this on to make it look like he's purposely on a voice call and it's not a pre-recorded script. Doesn't make any sense. Why would they? I don't understand. Why would you edit? Like, this is clearly not part of the screen cap. You would intentionally put this on here. Doesn't make any sense to me.
Children's future because of a steak or a chicken breast.
And we're seeing this question being raised in the mainstream press in a way we haven't before.
It soon became even worse for the meat industry, which became recognised as a global health liability, and in the US was set to lose $20 billion due to COVID-19, according to a report.
They don't pay taxes because their houses are considered houses of worship. I mean, if I have like a bunch of like Russian goddesses that I worship, do I have to pay taxes on my house?
By the Midwest Center, and as demand for animal products continued to plummet, the meat industry had to call on the US government's might for financial assistance.
The administration declared slaughterhouses
Look at this
essential
fucking
industries
thing, man.
and slaughterhouse
Look at
workers
this thing.
essential workers, when indeed it's the opposite. We
Look at
wouldn't
those
have a
teeth.
pandemic if we were a
Look at
plant-based
those teeth.
society. So instead of calling slaughterhouses essential industries and the meat industry an essential industry, it is essential that we eliminate meat to prevent future pandemics.
The people that buy cheap meat pay for it 3 times. The first time at the checkout, the second through their taxes in subsidies to agriculture, and the third is through the cleanup cost to our health and to the environment, which is huge. But I think with COVID-19, that link between the well-being of society and the way that we treat animals is now coming home to many more people. We've got to remember that protecting people means protecting animals too.
Midway through the year, George Floyd's death led to the biggest Black Lives Matter protest the world has seen.
Oh God, come on. Come on, I gotta talk about... How the fuck am I supposed to make a video about this if the whole fucking documentary is based on 2 fake things, COVID and George Floyd? George Floyd's staged killing was way more obvious than COVID. It's fucking, he was killed on fucking 33rd Street. He has a fucking Masonic tattoo, eagle across his chest. And all the fucking protests of people bust in. And if the videos I did on the George Floyd protest, I was actually down. I was down here. This clip right here. I was there. I'm assuming this is New York City, Washington Square Park. I was there that day filming this shit. Yeah, that's NYPD. So this is New York City. So I was there filming that shit, and I showed it on my channel. It was all bullshit. Then again, my videos were heavily suppressed.
Do what you say. This country is supposed to be about the land of the free for all.
I was there for, yeah, I recorded that
for
speech.
Black people, and we are tired. What's his name? George Floyd. What's his name? George Floyd. What's his name? George
Floyd. Awareness was sparked about dietary racism, highlighted most notably when the 2020 USDA dietary guidelines ignored alarming lactose intolerance data.
65% of the global population is lactose intolerant.
Yeah, the one thing I regret the most in the past few years is I had an interview. I'm a fucking idiot and I wasn't recording it myself, but he recorded it and didn't publish it. I had an interview with Klaus and Dotsie. I was on a, I don't know if it was Zoom or Skype, but I was on a call. I think it was Zoom. I was on a Zoom call with Dotsie Bausch and Klaus, and they were trying to get me to like say shit that would kind of incriminate me, I should have fucking recorded the conversation, because I was basically saying like the whole time, hey, Dotsy, don't you think it's weird how, you know, no one's ever done what you've done before? You're like a phenomenal athlete. You know, clearly hinting that Dotsy is not a female and she's a male, and that's how she broke all the female cycling records at like 40 years old. And I was hinting at that the whole conversation. It was fucking embarrassing. I wish I recorded it. That's the one thing I regret, not fucking recording that call.
Intolerant, according to the National Institute of Health. This number is even higher among non-white populations, such as Asians, Blacks, and Hispanics, which you've all heard here today. Those who cannot effectively digest the lactose in cow's milk, they experience really painful symptoms.
The newly updated recommendations stated that Americans should be consuming 3 glasses of dairy per day. This decision was heavily criticized.
This is of particular concern for communities of lower socioeconomic means and is disproportionately affecting minority ethnic communities.
The vast majority of people of color in this country are intolerant of the lactose that's in milk. Yet, because they think they have to eat this stuff, they go out, eat it, get sick, and think that they have some sort of intestinal problem. But in fact, when I encourage them to stop eating dairy, they're...
This is a food quality issue. This has nothing to do with blaming blanketing lactose intolerance. People have, you eat a bunch of yogurt and have the lactobacillus cultures in your stomach, you'll be able to drink milk.
Problems cleared up.
Why on earth does the USDA have a food category on the dietary guidelines for Americans that makes over half of us sick, uncomfortable, and unable to breathe? For the USDA to continue to put its stamp of approval on a product that is unnecessary and unhealthy and rooted in a highly oppressive system is unconscionable.
Not only did these recommendations ignore lactose intolerance in certain communities, there was growing evidence around the link between dairy and chronic disease. A review of 47 studies, for example, including over 1 million participants, showed that men who ate dairy products were up to 65% more likely to develop prostate cancer, whilst those on the plant-based diet were 36% less likely to develop it.
All that green makes me sick.
Another study from 2020 showed that drinking 1 cup of dairy milk a day increases a woman's risk of breast cancer by 50%, with 2 to 3 cups increasing that risk by a staggering 80%.
The recent research backs up the hundreds of other studies showing the link between dairy consumption and chronic disease, including cancer.
It was shocking that in 2020, the USDA continued to promote dairy, especially in the face of other mainstream medical establishments.
Again, this is a straw man argument. I don't. Using terms like that is not my strong suit, but they're creating an obvious, like, yeah, no shit, conventional dairy is bad because it's fucking full of agrochemicals, just like your conventional soy boy bullshit is bad. This is very bad acting. Welcome to what vegans are.
Shifting away from recommending this food group, including Canada's food plate, which excluded dairy as an essential component after industry were prevented from influencing guidelines.
And it's actually the first time around this guide was based on science. All previous
Dr. Yoni Friedhoff. Yanni Friedhoff.
guides had invited the food industry to have seats at tables, to have votes at tables, and to have closed-door meetings.
But the question in 2020 was, why were other governments so slow to change their recommendations?
So why don't they just ignore the USDA advice like everyone else?
It's not acceptable that the NHS is collapsing under the burden of chronic diseases, many of which can be prevented or treated by simple diet and lifestyle change.
One of the reasons why the United States now has the highest number of deaths compared to any other country in the world is because of these
people are listening to you, buddy.
Conditions. Let's think about them. Obesity, type 2 diabetes, heart disease, hypertension, every single one of them cannot just be prevented and stopped. Or
you know, Dr. Greger stays on the treadmill in his Q&As because he needs to increase the blood flow to his brain because he's about to drop dead from B vitamin deficiency.
Arrested in their tracks, but reversed with a healthy enough plant-based diet.
So in 2020, we found out that not only does eating animal products increase the risk of chronic disease, but these same chronic diseases make you more likely to suffer a severe or even fatal outcome with COVID-19.
Armed with this information, people were beginning to take their health into their own hands. One study from Italy at the end of June, for example, showed that a substantial number in the population were buying more organic produce in response to the pandemic. And charity Viva commissioned billboards about slashing the risk of severe COVID by adopting a healthy vegan diet.
Plant-based diet brings in what the body needs. It brings in...
Yeah, I know what the title of this video is. Vegan 2020. Vegans think they can save the world. They think, well, vegans think, oh, I don't know. Vegans think veganism cures COVID. I don't know. I can't put COVID in the title or mention it.
Fiber and vitamins, the right amount of protein, the right amount of nutrients, and it skips the thing that the bodies don't need. Cholesterol, animal fat, allergenic proteins.
It's lower in environmental toxins, so we're reducing our exposure to toxins, and we're incorporating nutrients that are important to support our immune health.
It's not, I mean, low in environmental toxins is not true, because at least animals are like a filter to some degree, whereas fruits and vegetables just suck up whatever was in the water table. Much higher in fluoride and chlorine and stuff.
A plant-based diet is the most effective approach.
Look, dude, like, why is everyone a ghoul? Like, is their go-to guy a ghoul? I don't get it. Or like the decent-looking doctors doing normal shit. Like, why is every go-to vegan doctor a ghoul? Like, do they not have anyone that actually looks reasonable to promote this stuff? Like, this guy looks like you're like, you'd wander into some fucking Nordic crypt and you open up a stone coffin and this guy fucking pops out and blows dust in your face. Like, that's literally what this guy looks like.
For reducing your risk for all chronic diseases. Whether those chronic diseases are things that happen to your brain, like Alzheimer's disease, whether it's things like Hashimoto's hypothyroidism, whether it's things like fatty liver disease, chronic kidney disease, diabetes, cancer, cardiovascular disease, you name it. There isn't a single chronic disease that a plant-based diet can't improve. And if you really understand that and you really see the true power of a plant-based diet, then in my opinion, it becomes a no-brainer. And if you want to call it a silver bullet, call it a silver bullet, because it is very, very effective.
Italy has now lifted some of its toughest restrictions.
Across Europe, businesses are starting to reopen and children are heading back to school.
As the world started to emerge from lockdown and over 10 million cases of coronavirus have been confirmed, another novel viral strain was identified.
Chinese researchers have discovered a new strain of swine flu.
It's called the G4 strain of H1N1.
You always have the possibility that you might have another swine flu type.
Does that look like an old lady with short hair or an old man? I mean, I'm just curious. What do you guys think?
Outbreak as we had in 2009.
The new virus was named G4EA-H1N1, a genetic variant of the H1N1 strain that caused the swine flu pandemic in 2009 that resulted in around 300,000.
I mean, Clausy boy, are you spending too much time in the sauna? Because you missed the key point that your fruits and vegetables are grown in this animal's shit. Like, your fruits and veggies are grown in animal shit. Like, okay, so hold on, let me get this straight. The animals are sick, we can't eat them. The animals are sick, we can't eat them. But you've been eating vegetables and produce grown in their own shit, but you're completely fine. It's a man, Frank. Please stop it. Yeah, that's what the fucking, the last girl I dated told me she was a fucking female too, yet I spent the rest of the fucking date trying to not true. I'm not stopping it, because I may or may not have been tricked once or twice.
Deaths. According to scientists, the G4 virus possessed all the essential hallmarks of being highly adapted to infect humans. So far, it doesn't appear to be very contagious.
Like Mrs. Doubtfire.
Health authorities are quick to slow its spread.
That movie's hilarious.
But it begged the question, with novel viruses becoming more frequent as we encroach on wildlife and expand factory farming, what if a viral outbreak emerged that was not only highly infectious, but with a high fatality rate, such as the Spanish flu of 1918, believed to have originated from the avian family? which killed upwards of 50 million people.
The leading candidate, according to the CDC, of the next pandemic after COVID is a bird flu virus by the name of H7N9, which is 100 times deadlier than COVID-19.
I think the long-lasting lesson of 2020 has to be that we have a responsibility to act and change now.
I mean, if people don't think they're going to use these fucking viruses to take away meat, I think they're delusional at this point. It's so clear what they're doing.
We'll look back at 2020 and think that this was a dress rehearsal.
Dr. Greger, you're so good at predicting the future. Why don't you predict that you were going to lose your fucking hair and fix it?
For much worse things to come. If the climate crisis gets worse, for example, the risk of pandemics are going to continue to grow. We may look back and think that 2020 was just a warning and we should have taken it more seriously.
People began to question whether...
Frank, stop buying products from Whole Foods. They soak their vegetables in chlorine before it hits the shelves. I don't eat vegetables, so I just eat grains, usually.
Animal farming was becoming too costly for our society, with a market analyst suggesting that the meat industry would face a troubling year ahead. This was
just date single moms, Frank. Problem solved. Honestly, that's probably the best fucking advice I've ever been given on my YouTube channel.
Underscored when the US beef industry was blasted.
At least there's some sort of tangible proof that there's a possibility a human being came out of them.
For overuse of antibiotics in a new report by the Natural Resources Defense Council.
Farm animals are fed antibiotics for their entire lives. This means that about 70% of all antibiotics produced globally, not given to sick humans, but given to well animals, to farm animals, in order to make them grow more quickly and also to allow them to live through the conditions of industrial animal agriculture. What this means is that bacteria are figuring out how to get around the antibiotics. They're becoming superbugs, and when you get sick, the antibiotics don't work. The former president of the World Health Organization, Dr. Margaret Chan.
Who makes up this shit like a fucking, like a bacterial cell encased in steel with studs and spikes? Like, what is this, Hellraiser?
She explained that the world is heading toward a post-antibiotic era in which common infections will once again kill. This will be the end of modern medicine as we know it.
I mean, listen, these people are so good at predicting the future, so just tell us what to do. Yeah, go ahead.
We're on the cusp of returning to a pre-antibiotic era where strep throat was a death sentence. Let me put it as basically as I can. If we keep producing food the way we do, you're going to get sick with something medicine cannot fix.
How are you, like, the way they say this stuff with such certainty is disgusting. Is it because you know that those fucking 5G towers you set up are going to cook people to the point where their immune systems are destroyed?
2020 represented the year that humans socially distanced to minimize the spread of disease. Yet animal agriculture continued to systematically enforce the opposite, with 95% of UK meat produce coming from factory farms, 99% in the US. And in China, the latest case of bubonic plague in July was a reminder that diseases of the past are still a threat.
From COVID-19 to a new type of swine flu, and now the bubonic plague, one of the deadliest diseases in human history, has been reported in China.
Some have pointed out that many outbreaks reported in 2020 started.
Yeah, at what point do you say, okay, are you guys just making shit up now? What's the point? Like, you guys just make up a new virus every week? Like, what's the deal, boys?
In Asia, which has become notorious for its animal cruelty and lack of animal welfare laws. And there was some...
So why can't they see that commercial ag practices are the problem, not the animals? Usually they'll gaslight you when you say that. So when you say like, oh, well, so isn't conventional agriculture the problem? What about the conventionally grown vegetables? They don't bring up arguments they can't win. The reason vegans never talk about pasture-raised animals is because they can't win the argument. And when they do talk about it, they just outright lie and say shit like, oh no, grass-fed's actually worse for the environment. Or no, grass-fed animals, there's not enough space to raise grass-fed animals. They just make blatant lies that are not true. Can I punch Klaus in the face? Depends on how manly you look. He might like it.
Some truth to this. As wealth has increased, demand for meat, particularly chicken and pork, has increased exponentially in Asia. Between 1968 and 2005, for example, the human population in China increased less than twofold, whereas the pig population increased almost 100-fold. and the chicken population increased more than 1,000-fold. While sobering, the sheer scale of consumption created opportunity, particularly for plant-based entrepreneurs looking to overhaul the system. One of these, David Young, revealed his plans to...
I mean, why didn't you mention that, like, China exports a lot of pork? Or they eat a lot of pork. Like, it's kind of relevant fact.
...disrupt the pork business by launching plant-based...
Were a lot of Native Americans really killed by polio, or are they lying to us? Listen, the problem is these satanic assholes, they literally write history. They literally write history. So we don't know what actually happened to the Native Americans. I'm sure there's some... I'm sure if you were at a reservation or... Listen, you're not going to find out because the people that know what actually happened, you're not like a Native... Like, if you were born a Native American, I'm assuming, like, your parents or your grandparents are going to tell you stories about what really happened. Like, they're never going to let the public know because the public wouldn't understand or believe them. But I think there's a reason that most of these Native Americans are on reservations, isolated from the people, and they also get free rides and shit like that, and they kind of keep to themselves. I think there's a lot of secrets that these Native Americans know that that the average person would be surprised to hear. But you have to keep in mind, they write history. You know, the Spanish flu, the history of the Spanish flu was not written, you know. Right now, in the current world, there's a track record of what's happened. You know, there's plenty of people that have gone out, hashtag empty hospitals. There's a lot of proof that what they're doing is completely fucking fake. There's a lot of proof that all those... I remember I filmed all the schools where there were COVID outbreaks in New York City. A video I did a couple months back, 2 months back maybe, where 5G antennas were pointed at all of the schools where kids got sick. Now there's been visible proof that these people are lying right now. So if they can write history after the fact and there's no recording, who knows what actually happened? I think killing off our food sources kills our people, especially in Texas. There's a reason the natives in Canada were all forced into education. No, the native and indigenous peoples know about the secrets of the world and natural law way more, like the secret societies do. They figured it out on their own.
Pork alternative
Native Americans were enslaved and slaughtered to death in gold mines.
Pork, which by midway through the year was starting to take hold in the region. As 2020's pandemic disruptions sped up this shift towards plants, with people starting to pivot away from traditional protein sources over food safety fears, OmniPork's David Young struck again with new products including vegan spam and pork shoulder. And he wasn't alone, because food tech entrepreneur Josh Tetrick revealed that Chinese state-backed food companies were contacting him about protein alternatives.
So for the good of the world and to the great economic benefit
all these guys deserve to be thrown in a fucking pen full of pigs.
Of the governments that seize this innovation opportunity, the time for governments to invest in remaking meat, that time is now.
We've reached the point where there's so many livestock on the Earth's surface that we're running into challenges with keeping that system working, and that supply chain is now, as many in the industry themselves have said, is under enormous pressure. So I think we are reaching a tipping point.
Beyond Meat itself was open about Asia being a key target, and the whole region became a battleground for plant-based meat makers such as Impossible Foods, who've been expanding their distribution around the world. With 3D printed steaks launching and plant-based Wagyu beef even coming to the attention.
Yo, so this one from like propaganda, bullshit, fear-mongering virus to advertising plant-based slop, basically.
With MasterChef Hidekatu Toju, it was clear that meat alternatives were starting to mimic the taste and texture of the real thing.
Even the biggest meat producers, the biggest killers of animals on this planet, JBS, a Brazilian meat company, has a vegan product line.
In addition to JBS, other huge meat companies like Tyson, Smithfield, Purdue, and Hormel had all also rolled out meat alternatives. And despite the pandemic,
he's literally admitting that they're all fucking in on it. Both the meat industry and the plant-based industry are in fucking bed together. This is so stupid.
Branded 2020 the year that vegan fast food truly took hold.
Now, more and more people are cutting out meat and dairy products and adopting a plant-based diet.
I mean, we really are heading into a plant-based revolution. The world is changing.
Yo, it's literally like, imagine like Dr. Greger and Corn Faker in a sauna together. That's literally what's fucking happening. Like, that's literally what they're doing. Someone please draw that for me. I'll pay you.
Demand for these products is simply too strong at the customer level.
We need to get products that taste the same or better and that cost the same or...
You could do like a quote like Corn Faker saying, "Oh boy, I usually feed corn to my animals, but you sure know how to work a corn cob."
That's the holy grail.
KFC's new vegan chicken burger.
And I don't mean, listen, with the wooey accent, I don't mean to offend any Southern or like Texas people. It just so happens to be that the carnivores like corn, and corn's grown in the Midwest, and that's what they sound like. That's just a coincidence.
Singapore has given the world's first regulatory approval to sell its lab-grown chicken.
The rise of plant-based meat and the development of plant-based meat technology is one of the most exciting prospects. It's the future of food, we know it.
The meat industry
what is this shit?
Has attempted
get out of here.
growth of the plant-based movement in various ways.
I've seen enough transmissions
the
today.
tactics became increasingly desperate. In August, the meat industry lobbied the European Union in an attempt to introduce a veggie burger ban.
Tonight, why the European Parliament's Agricultural Committee wants to ban words like
who the fuck does this guy look in a fucking mirror in the morning?
Burger, sausage, cheese, and yogurt to describe plant-based products.
If the veggie burger ban was passed, plant-based producers would no longer...
They grow corn out here too in PA. Oh, I know. I've been to PA like fucking 10 times in the past 2 months. There's a lot of corn.
be able to use words like burger.
And it's funny how all the Amish sound the same. I'm getting these calls every day because I put an ad in their newspaper, and they all sound like this, and they have similar names. I gotta like keep a track record.
And sausage to describe their products. They would instead be forced to come up with new names such as veggie discs or veggie tubes, apparently to minimize confusion in the marketplace.
How about you just name it plant-based bullshit and people will buy it just as a gag gift, and you'll be able to sell more of it than you ever have.
Using the veggie disc. Is it a frisbee? No. Is it a UFO?
Yo, the nice thing is I can kind of make fun of the Amish all I want because they don't use the internet. But I don't know, maybe it'll eventually get around to them.
Oh no! Is it a soup bowl? No. It is the genuine veggie disc, a nutritious and delicious food
real?
enjoyed by the whole family, including your dog. Especially me. Ideal for a picnic or barbecue. Put it on the grill, not the jukebox. Don't be fooled. Buy the genuine and authentic vegetable disc.
Meanwhile, in North America, a crafty
Veggie
war was
dicks.
waged by the meat industry.
That's a good point. If they named it Veggie Dicks, all the vegan boys would be buying it. Veggie Dicks for the vegan boys.
Canadian meat giant Maple Leaf Foods entered the plant-based burger market through a subsidiary called Lightlife. Lightlife tactfully published an open letter to Beyond Meat and Impossible Foods through a full-page ad in the New York Times, criticizing the number of ingredients in their food. In a scathing rebuttal, Impossible Foods hit back, calling out Lightlife, and by extension meat giant Maple Leaf Foods, for running a disingenuous, desperate disinformation campaign. At the same time, the results from a study conducted by Stanford University showed that switching from animal protein to Beyond Meat actually had significant health benefits, including lower cholesterol and improved cardiovascular health risk factors.
How did I introduce plant-based meat to my family, plant-based products to my family? I just slid it on them. I snuck it in. You know, you got to sneak it in, man.
How much did they pay him for
Because
this
so many
shit?
people are accustomed to, a certain taste or a certain way of doing it. So you got to slide it in and let it just be a way of coming in. And it's like,
Just
what
slide
is that?
those veggie
that's
dicks
something
into
new.
the vegan boys.
Well, how new? It's Beyond Meat. It's actually plant-based. Oh, I didn't know I like plant-based. I know. Keep eating it.
By the end of the summer, smash hit documentary The Game Changers started screening
Smash
at
hit.
Chinese video giant Yuko. The Netflix phenomenon had already opened up the debate on diet and performance since its release in 2019, with a number of athletes in 2020 ditching meat, including, but not limited to, Barcelona defenders.
All right, all we have to do to debunk Game Changers and just show the cock ring scene. For those of you that didn't see it, these three like college males like visited a urologist, and he put these fucking like, I'm sure he applied them manually, these fucking like these rings to their cocks, and he had like one of them eat a chicken burrito, one of them eat like a bean burrito, and one of them eat like a steak burrito or something. And the person with the veggie burrito had a harder boner or something. That's what the Game Changers was about. For those of you that haven't seen the Game Changers, it's about male enhancement.
Samuel Antiti, who said he never felt so good since going vegan.
You know, it's more than a performance reason for me. It's a lifestyle. Really.
Why are they still posting this guy in here?
That I'm really proud of, and hopefully that community grows even more.
It's changed my life, man. It's been one of the things I can honestly say that's just lately that has, you know, changed me from a mental standpoint, physical standpoint, and even a spiritual standpoint.
But it wasn't just athletes who were curious.
Well, my next guest, Anya, decided to adopt a vegan lifestyle and cut back on her favorite Dominican comfort foods, even though her family thought she was giving up her culture.
My acne was really bad, and I was just sick of trying everything, and nothing worked. So
I mean, whether she's a boy or a girl, you know, her Dominican diet made her pretty. Now she's gonna go vegan, and her kids are gonna be ugly.
I kind of went down the wormhole of documentaries and decided just to try this natural solution.
You know, having watched Game Changers, having
Big Sausage changed me spiritually.
watched What the Health, it got us thinking, well, actually, what a brilliant opportunity. We're twins. You know, you watch all these, as Hug said, you watch all these documentaries on Netflix, particularly Game Changers, and it really does make you go, should we all be doing this?
The Game Changers influence inspired the experiment so many of us have been desperate to see. What happens when one identical twin goes plant-based and one doesn't? Not surprisingly, plant-based Hugo's cholesterol went down and his energy went up.
A vegan diet is very much more stable in terms of sugar delivery during the day, whereas a meat is, you know, you get the...
All right, that's the biggest fucking lie I've ever heard in my life. How the fuck did he say that to the camera with a straight face? That a sugar carb vegan diet is better for blood sugar than a meat-based diet? Really? Okay.
Ups and downs, which was really interesting.
This was backed up by a 2020 study showing that a staggering 84% of type 2 diabetics normalized their blood glucose after following a personalized plant-based diet called the NFI protocol. But perhaps an even more interesting experiment was inadvertently conducted by James Blunt when he tried the complete opposite of a vegan diet, a carnivore diet.
I just lived on mince, some chicken, maybe with some mayonnaise, a little bit of, you know, and it took me about 6 to 8 weeks to get very, very unhealthy, see a doctor who then said, I think you've got the symptoms of scurvy.
Oh my God.
By the end of August,
I mean, you eat conventional feedlot meat for that long, only that with fucking mayo, yeah, you're going to be sick.
Campaigns such as Plant-Based News' World Plant Milk Day went viral, and reports such as Dairy Does a Body Bad demonstrated that
World Plant Milk Day sounds like a fucking gay pride parade.
Dairy was not just unnecessary,
some boy milk,
but also affects athletic performance.
Okay. Have you ever seen a fucking Adonis belt like that even on a man? Look at those abs. Like, come on, who the fuck are they fooling? That's a man with long hair. And this is the overarching problem I have with these the trans stuff is you have a bunch of men that put on sports bras and thongs and follow a vegan diet and they're pretending to be women. Like, okay, so you're basically saying that as a male, if you want to look and feel like a woman, go vegan. That's basically what they're actually doing, but what they're saying is the opposite. That woman is so manly, I like her. It's funny because, like, I see comments on videos all the time about, like, women having, like, girl crushes on certain celebrities. And the reason they have girl crushes is because the fucking celebrity is actually a man.
There's continuing, like, science from the health and performance aspects. And then, of course, from the environmental aspects in the planet. And then with this lockdown, you know, we know that the root of this is from from animals. I mean, you look at the swine flu, the bird flu, all these pandemics, 3 out of 4, I believe it is. And then the funny thing is, people say, oh, well, we don't want to spread disease, so we should separate and, have this social distancing. Well, what are we doing to animals that are in, in factory farms?
Female bodybuilding is so yuck. This is why I was going to make a video titled, will women get bulky if they lift weights? But I decided I couldn't make the video because if I was being truthful, I would basically say that all of these female fitness influencers are trans and they're creating unrealistic body expectations. The reason women think they're going to get bulky is because it's a bunch of fucking dudes in dresses telling them to work out. Like, yeah, no shit.
What conditions are they in? So it's no wonder that disease is spreading, amongst those animals, and then it transfers over to humans. So there's another reason for public health that we should be switching to more plants.
People keep asking, will life ever return to normal? Yeah, of course it will. I mean, it'll happen again. This will happen again. I mean, the wet markets are already opening in China and other parts of it. They're already getting back to it. This comes from animals, like all the other things, like MERS and SARS, comes from fucking eating things you shouldn't. And people still aren't taking it serious.
Is Lady Gaga a man? Why are you asking me that? Did he show you his cock?
If everybody ate less meat, or preferably no meat, it wouldn't only reduce cruelty, but it would also have a huge impact, positive impact on the environment.
September 2020 was recorded as the warmest month on record worldwide, and Arctic sea ice plummeted to its second lowest levels on record, scientists confirmed. Even though more and more people becoming aware of the plant-based lifestyle, fires raged on like never before in California.
Did anyone figure out why all those arsonists started those fires in those specific places of California?
The recent data supported the severity of the climate crisis, with a new study showing that wildlife populations are in freefall all around the world. The research was one of the most comprehensive assessments of global biodiversity available, and showed that on average, global populations of mammals, birds, fish, amphibians, and reptiles plunged by 68% over the last 50 years.
Over the course of my life, I've encountered some of the world's most remarkable species of animals. Only now do I realize just how lucky I've been. Many of these wonders seem set to disappear forever.
Yeah, they're pulling out the big guns. If someone hears this guy, honestly, if people hear this guy tell you to go vegan, they might be incentivized to do so.
We're facing a crisis, and one that has consequences for us all. It threatens our ability to feed ourselves, to control our climate.
There's the other guy that reminds me of this guy that did the desertification TED Talk. Reminds me a little bit of him for some reason. They're both old dudes with white hair, I guess.
It even puts us at greater risk of pandemic diseases such as COVID-19. It's never...
Hold on, David Attenborough says eating free-range meat is middle-class hypocrisy. Eating free-range meat is middle-class hypocrisy. Let's see what that article's about. Free-range meat is middle-class hypocrisy. Eats fish and chicken, vast knowledge, and the world moving towards a plant-based diet. Attenborough is on board with the imperative of reducing or limiting meat. However, I'm affluent enough to afford free-range meat, but it's a middle-class hypocrisy. The planet can't support billions of meat eaters. If we ate only plants, we'd only need... It's a lie. That's an absolute lie. I literally said that earlier in the stream. Whenever people bring up... If vegans ever do decide to bring up the pasture-raised or free-range meat argument, they lie and say either people can't afford it or there's not enough land on the planet. Those are their two go-to arguments, and he just did that.
It's never been more important for us to understand the effects of biodiversity loss. of how it is that we ourselves are responsible for it. Only if we do that will we have any hope of averting disaster.
In the same month David Attenborough's A Life on Our Planet was released, a new study confirmed what we knew before, that a plant-based diet was best for the environment. As the study authors put it, our results show that diets are the main determinant of greenhouse gas emissions, with highest greenhouse gas emissions found for scenarios including high meat demand, especially if focused on ruminant meat and milk, and lowest emissions for scenarios with vegan diets.
What this piece of research showed and was backed up by with a 2018 piece of research that is considered the most comprehensive analysis ever conducted.
So these dumbass vegans are going to try to make an argument that eating conventional monocropped garbage soy boy food made from conventional animal shit is better for you than eating wild animals and wild plants. It's literally the most nonsensical fucking argument there is, and it's not even worth addressing whatever fucking bullshit paper they put in front of you. Okay, you're gonna go start shooting the fucking deer in the woods because they're farting? Like, what do you mean? Deer aren't allowed to shit in the woods anymore because they're destroying the shit's gonna burn through the fucking sun? Like, what's the deal?
Exploring the relationship between farming and the environment is that a plant-based diet is the most sustainable diet that we can choose as humans. And what's interesting about this study and also the 2018 piece of research as well is they looked at grass-fed and free-range ruminant farming and concluded that even those styles of farming, the ones that we often see as being more sustainable, were also catastrophic when it came to the impact they have on our environment. And overall,
Dipshit Ed literally saying that cows eating fucking grass is bad for the environment. Better fucking morons.
All the food choices that we have, a plant-based diet is by far
does anyone really believe that shit besides the brainwashed vegans?
The most sustainable diet.
A new report in October found that interest in eco-friendly products was up, with the vegan footwear market expected to surpass.
Are they gonna start saying that like monkeys eating fucking fruit in the trees? If monkeys eating fruit in the trees is bad for the environment, then they better shoot all the vegans because that's what they are, a bunch of fucking monkeys. What did I just do?
2020. This followed in the footsteps of other milestones in the fashion industry, including most notably by Adidas, who launched 3 of its iconic styles using animal-free materials under its Our Icons Go Vegan line.
In recent years, we have seen some changes on both the high street and within high-end designers when it comes to the kind of materials that people are using. I'd say one of the major victories this year was when a number of
I stand by what I said, he's kind of cute.
Street and high-end fashion giants started ditching alpaca, and this appeared to be completely as a result of an investigation released by vegan charity PETA, which showed horrific animal suffering within the alpaca industry. So we've seen people like Valentino.
If you saw Earthling Ed from behind, would you want to hit it? I think he's a little flabby underneath the clothes, so that's a no.
Banning alpaca, as well as people like the H&M group. There are other exotic skins which we've seen designers ditch, so kangaroo leather. We've seen Mulberry, very classic British high-end brand, saying it will get rid of all exotic skins. And of course, over recent years, we've seen more and more of these alternatives. For example, leather made from coffee grain or mushrooms or pineapple, and these are all becoming more accessible.
By the end of October, the European Union rejected the veggie burger ban that the meat industry had previously lobbied for. Meanwhile, plant-based...
That's a good point. Like, aren't people always saying, like, oh, like, capitalism is bad, like, fuck big business, but now big business and the government wants you vegan.
Meat in the US was experiencing huge growth, up as high as 454% versus the same week in 2019, while in the UK, Oxford University removed meat in a bid to combat climate change. And in Israel, a pro-vegan TV ad went viral, reaching 35% of the nation after being broadcast during one of the country's most popular TV shows.
אבל שיהיה טרי טרי.
טלה, טרי טרי! טרי טרי בדרך.
יום, הייתי רעב.
טרי טרי! מה זה? טרי טרי! לחלק?
Yeah, I'll slice that lamb right open, you little fucking soy boy.
La Rose. As winter set in, there was that feeling that society...
You know what they should have done for that commercial? They should have taken out like a fucking evil looking goat, like a fucking black eyes with horns and shit. Except they choose the cutest little fucking lamb possible.
He was back to square one.
Cases are rising fast. 96,000 people a day in England are being infected.
Across the continent, people are facing tougher restrictions in an effort to fight COVID-19.
Germany is back in a partial coronavirus lockdown.
Tell me the law that I have broken by being here today. Tell me what law I have broken. You cannot tell me any law that I've broken. Speak to me.
This morning, we may be one step closer to a vaccine.
Drug maker Pfizer announcing its vaccine is showing to be 90% effective in trials.
Closest comparison
Dude, what the fuck does a vaccine have to do with a vegan diet?
is the MMR vaccine, which took 4 years to develop, not under a year like what scientists are aiming for now.
And even as uplifting news started to circulate about a potential vaccine breakthrough, there were concerning developments about the fur industry. Mink, often farmed in Europe for their fur, turned out to be highly susceptible to human infections, sparking fears that a mutation of COVID-19 could emerge from a mink farm that would undermine the COVID vaccine.
Denmark has announced it will eliminate the country's entire population of farmed minks after mutated coronavirus strains were reported among the animals. More than 15 million will be culled. In some cases, the mutated virus also infected people.
What kind of bullshit is that? What actually happened over there? What actually happened over there? Were there a bunch of like elites? Did a bunch of elites need like 15 million mink coats for their underground bunkers?
Medical experts fear that could jeopardize the...
I want to see where all that fucking mink went. I want to see, bitch, I want to see the 15 million mink gravestones. I don't believe it. Where did that fucking mink go? There's no way they dumped all those minks into a hole, dude. They fucking made them into coats.
Effectiveness of future COVID vaccines.
The mink culls a stark reminder of the challenging road ahead. Even if the potential vaccine is successful, it may not be foolproof against future mutations. Unless we address the root cause, society would again be defenseless.
We have some breaking news for you this morning because in the last few minutes we've heard that the first coronavirus vaccine has been approved for use in the UK.
2020 has been such a terrible year, hasn't it? And help is on its way.
How are they going to tie the vaccine into this? How are they going to do it? Are they going to say like, we wouldn't need vaccines if we were vegan or some shit?
From 2020 has got to be how fragile existence is, how fragile this world is, how fragile life as we know it is.
We are now seeing with wildfires, with drought.
What average person is buying mink? Back when my grandfather still had his business, and he bought my mom used to buy my mom some really expensive like mink stuff. My mom actually had some old like mink coats and stuff that we were going to try to sell, but I don't think they're worth anything. Because, I mean, they paid a lot of fucking money for them. I think those coats were like who knows, a few $1,000s at least. They're expensive coats.
With a pandemic that we are now getting the gift of...
But yeah, no, the average person doesn't buy fucking mink coats. It's like some Russian oligarch bougie shit.
Desperation.
One crisis is colliding with another. It's hard to follow safer at home orders when you don't have a home.
And as for all those living on the streets, survival is now more difficult than ever.
2020 has been a challenging year for so many of us. But it's because of this that ethics, health and sustainability have been pushed to the forefront of human consciousness.
This declaration is an acknowledgement of the next...
Dude, look at that fucking thing. Look, it's so oh man, look at that fucking thing. Imagine that thing walking up to you in the dark.
Generation. An acknowledgement of the burden that they will carry if we do not get this right and if we do not take action now.
People are starting to join the dots between animal agriculture
and the floods we see in the UK, Florida and Bangladesh, and the raging bushfires in Australia and the more recent fires in California.
So I think we've kind of moved beyond the old way of advocacy, and we've started to look at the global implications of how the way we are exploiting animals could really be the end of humanity itself.
If we continue to farm animals the way we're doing, if we continue with the wet markets, if we continue with active farming, we are going to destroy this world and destroy ourselves.
At what point do we say enough is enough? Because each month we see these viruses one step away from disaster. If an infectious disease from one of these factory farms or meat markets turns into a pandemic once every 5, 10 or 20 years, at what point do we reconsider this industry? Can we afford the cost of a pandemic like this again? And if we can't, how can we justify continuing to eat animal products?
It seemed to be a little bit of a taboo thing to say right at the beginning of the pandemic, but very quickly when mainstream media, like...
Does this dude look in a fucking mirror like he fluffed his fucking hair and he's wearing a turtleneck?
Articles from The Guardian, from The Washington Post, and from Vox, when they started talking about these links, all of a sudden
animals farting are the cause of floods. No, actually the animals shit so much that it overflows the ocean.
Normalize the idea of veganism being a way to reduce the risk of infectious zoonotic disease into the future. And so if there's one good thing that can come from coronavirus, is that it could have been much worse. And the fact that it wasn't much worse is giving us
I'm sorry, let me rephrase that. The doo-doo comes out of the animal's butt at such a high temperature it melts the ice caps.
Chance now to change, to avoid something worse from happening in the future.
Making peace with nature is the defining task of the 21st century. It must be the top priority for everyone, everywhere.
More and more people are turning to the plant-based lifestyle, with 10% of Canadians now identifying as vegan or vegetarian. In addition, a survey from Germany revealed that the number of vegans there had doubled in the last 4 years. While upcoming vegan chefs landed major opportunities on TV, a vegan butcher store sold out in record time. Huge
vegan butcher, dude.
Corporations began predicting and targeting.
Why can't you just call it like a vegan meat alternative? Like fuck.
Massive rises in plant-based meat sales, including not just supermarket giant Tesco, but also multinational consumer goods company Unilever, who announced a €1 billion annual sales target for plant-based foods by the year 2027.
Frankie, where's the organ supplements? We don't know yet. Somewhere on a boat in China.
While searches for vegan food near me skyrocketed by 2,100%. 2020.
Hold on, what did that? Hold on, let's take a. Hold on. He's trying to skate that chart by us.
While searches for vegan food near me skyrocketed by 2,000.
Hold on. 2020 pandemic. Fuck the vegan diet. What is that? That doesn't make any sense. So look, in times of starvation and times of need, people say fuck vegan diet. But why did it then go up?
100%. 2020 showed that the plant-based and vegan lifestyle was no longer a fringe movement. The question now is, what will 2021 bring?
We all know climate change is real.
Directed and scripted by Klaus Mitchell, as if he's like fucking proud of it. Alright guys, we'll answer questions for a little while and then I'm gonna I gotta go film tomorrow's video. I mean, I think if we make a video on that, I think if I make a video on that, I'm gonna rewatch it and I'll take the most ridiculous and dramatic clips for each point and we'll see what I want to put into a critique video. Yeah, but we'll definitely do some sort of like consolidated critique on it. And last time I made the error of I critiqued the Game Changers movie like a month or two after it came out, but the majority of the critiques and it really hit the mainstream 3-4 months after. So I think I might wait. I'm definitely not going to post the video. Like, I don't know if I should post the video this week or next week, or if I should wait a little while. All the vegan stuff in my local store is never touched. Yeah, I did notice that a lot of the times no one buys the plant-based stuff, and I think they are actually having a hard time selling it. Vegans are butchers, butchers of humanity. I could include that in my video. That's a good one. There's a couple. There's definitely at least like 5 or 7 quotes in the chat that I definitely can take for the video that I've been writing down. Vegans are the vegan butchers at actual humans with the vegan diet. The reason you found out Naomi was a shill does it have to do with inverted gender? I mean, it's always hard to tell, but who fucking cares? So how do they correlate veganism to COVID-19 and vaccines again? Well, they basically tried to say, animals are getting sick and causing. They're basically trying to say all the conventional factory farming methods of animals cause viruses, but it was from a fucking bat. Like, so it doesn't have anything to do with conventional farming. You know, if what they said is true, then it came from a bat in a wet market. So it's from a bat, like it's not a fucking pig or a chicken or a cow. So there's no correlation there of that. And then I don't know the vaccines. They just mentioning it. They just put clips of vaccines in there, right? They didn't say anything about them. Like, how the fuck does that fit in? It's so obvious New World Order shit. Like, why are you just putting clips of vaccines in there? Like, what does that have to do with anything? And then you can, like, kind of zoom out and say, well, yeah, it's obvious that it's all just a propaganda bullshit piece. Man, I should have waited for the mixed best bars for much cheaper shipping because I haven't received my shipment from customs. Why would it be cheaper shipping? I didn't change the price of the shipping, and the mixed bars aren't that much cheaper each. It's maybe a 2% discount. I can apply a discount to your order if you send me an email. Just the overarching question is, you know, what is in the vaccine that they haven't been able to do yet? Because we know they can monitor us. We know they can make us sick. I think that what the vaccine is actually going to do is there's a couple possibilities, and we've spoken about this before. One possibility is just alter your DNA to make you more sheepish. One possibility is to actually make people sick to create a new wave of a new strain of virus. Another possibility is to reduce fertility. Those are the 3 possibilities. I bought 60 bars. We lit. I heard the chocolate one tastes like a brownie. Yes, Sid, I saw your order the other day. They have to make a vaccine for the virus from eating animals like ones with COVID. But they never physically said, did they actually say in the document, did they say in the clip that the reason we have to make vaccines is because we eat meat? Did they actually say that? I'll have to rewatch this shit anyway. They make you fluorescent with jellyfish DNA? What? That will make you easy to identify? If you're not fluorescent, then they'll know you're not vaccinated? What do you mean? They don't have to fucking make you fluorescent to know you got vaccinated. They have lists of everything. The government knows, based on their data gathering over the past year, who's going to get vaccinated and who's not. They already know. They already know who's getting vaccinated and who's not, based on their social media interactions, based on their behavior, based on what conversations they've had with their family. The phone and everything is recording everything. I'm sure they'll put microchips eventually. Have angry mobs turn on you if you don't get the vaccine. People say I won't get the vaccine and then put their mask on and go into the store. That's the problem. You know, if people believe in it at all, then it's an issue. I mean, I put my mask on because it's bullshit, but I just know that, you know, I can't just walk into the store with my mask off. Otherwise, it's going to cause issues because it's luciferase dissolved in 66.6 milliliters of solvent. Where is that information coming from, though? Why are they putting fluorescent DNA in the vaccine? I mean, I didn't read about that yet. But I think we'll wrap this up in a few minutes. So if you guys have any more questions, just let me know. I mean, the point of the vaccine and all this hysteria in the media is to get people fearful and believe that they're going to mandate vaccinations. I mean, but again, people, as always, should have just been not watching the news the whole time and ignoring it, just like the Amish. California, you'll get attacked or bullet if you don't wear a mask. Yeah, by what? Like a fucking skinny broccoli, celery, asparagus, Twiggy boy? I can't go into ShopRite anymore. I went in without a mask, and they said why. I mean, the issue with the supermarkets and that type of stuff is like, yeah, you have to wear a mask, unfortunately, to go in. They won't initially. Well, no, we know that they're gonna. We know we've already seen glimpses that they're going to make it so, just like you have to wear a mask to do certain things, you have to gonna make it so you have to get a vaccine to travel, vaccine to do this, vaccine to do that. So there's gonna be a lot of lawsuits. I think there's too many lawsuits with the vaccine stuff. Kylie, I have a video on avocados. I think it's titled "Are Avocados Healthy?" You can watch. But thank you guys for joining me today. Maybe I'll do a full critique on this on my main channel soon. I don't know. We'll see. But hope you guys enjoyed this. Is Hale Burns a man? What a great question to finish the night with. She's got a big head. So we'll have a video as usual every day this week. Hopefully we got hopefully we have some exciting stuff and maybe 1 or 2 more launches before the end of the year. Maybe not. We'll see. But you guys enjoy the rest of your day.